What happens when silence, once a symbol of peace, becomes the suffocating weight of loneliness? Meet Clara, a mother torn between the love she once had and the emptiness left in its place. This is a story of betrayal, healing, and the strength found when we least expect it. Clara Thorne once equated quiet with tranquility. Years ago, her modest home in Meadowbrook buzzed with laughter. Her husband David would rush home to share sunsets, and their son, Leo, filled the kitchen with giggles over spilled ice cream. But now, silence had become a suffocating blanket, sharp and cold, a chasm of distance. David had become a ghost in their home, consumed by work, or perhaps, as Clara suspected, by someone else. He arrived late, weary, his phone a constant companion. His words were scarce, tinged with an irritation that suggested her presence was a burden. Clara, ever observant, noted the late-night calls, the absence of warmth, the way his gaze avoided hers. Leo, now 22, was no longer the child who ran to her arms. Tall and kind, he was fiercely protective. He'd returned home after college, claiming to save money, but Clara knew he sought to shield her from the encroaching emptiness. One rainy Thursday, the truth hit her like a thunderclap. As midnight passed, David remained absent, his usual call unmade. Clara gazed at her reflection, tired eyes, faded lipstick, a sweater too large. "When did I start looking so old?" she whispered. Leo entered, a blanket in hand, which he draped over her shoulders. "You'll catch a cold, Mom," he said, his voice a soothing balm. Clara offered a faint smile, masking her sorrow. "I'm fine, sweetie," yet her trembling hands betrayed her. "Dad's not home again?" he asked softly. She shook her head, feigning indifference. "He's busy with work." Leo's jaw tightened. "You deserve better, Mom." His words, a forbidden whisper, resonated deeply. No one had voiced such a sentiment in years. She looked at him, recognizing the man he had become, the one who now saw her pain. She wanted to deflect, but the words wouldn't come. His concern, the unwavering connection in his eyes, filled a void she hadn't realized was so vast. Blinking back tears, she said, "Go to bed, Leo. It's late." He hesitated, then nodded. "Good night, Mom." The silence that followed was heavier. Clara sat watching the rain, a strange mix of sadness and comfort stirring within her. Not romantic, not wrong, but real. She felt seen, truly seen. For the first time in years, sleep eluded her. Every creak, every gust of wind amplified her thoughts of David, of where he was, who he was with. The image of another woman's laughter beside him flashed in her mind, a pang of loss for a love that had once been vibrant. Dawn brought the scent of rain and quiet melancholy. In the kitchen, Leo's cup sat on the counter with a note. "Don't forget breakfast, Mom. Love you." A faint smile touched her lips. Such a small gesture, yet it offered more warmth than David had in ages. When David finally returned that morning, he avoided her gaze, walking past her to set down his suitcase. "Did you pay the water bill?" he mumbled, devoid of greeting or explanation. Clara's lips parted, but she remained silent, watching him move like a stranger in their shared home. On his shirt collar, a faint lipstick stain twisted her stomach, but she said nothing, her energy for conflict depleted. Later, Leo found her on the porch, lost in thought. He sat beside her, the air thick with unspoken truths. "Do you ever wish you could just start over?" she asked, her voice a whisper. Leo looked surprised. "Go somewhere new where no one knows you, where you can breathe again." He paused. "Maybe you should, Mom. You've always cared for everyone else." "Maybe it's time for you," she smiled sadly. Easier said than done. The conversation faded, but her heart clung to his words. Start over, could she? That evening, as she prepared dinner, her reflection in the microwave door revealed new strands of gray, tired eyes and a faint spark, small but growing. She couldn't continue living this way. At dinner, David barely touched his food, scrolling through his phone with a smirk. Leo's fork clattered. "Could you not do that at the table?" he said sharply. David looked up annoyed. "Excuse me, you heard me?" And Leo retorted, his voice steady. "At least pretend to care." The room froze. Clara's heart hammered. "Leo," she warned softly. David scoffed, set his phone down and stood. "I don't need this. I've had a long day." The door slammed. The silence was deafening. Leo turned to her, guilt in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Mom. I shouldn't have said anything." Clara shook her head. "No, Leo, thank you." Her voice trembled, but a strange lightness filled her. For once, someone had defended her. That night, her bed felt vast and cold. Wrapped in a blanket, she stared at the empty side, memories of laughter and promises flooding her. Tears streamed down her face. She recalled Leo's words, "You deserve better, Mom." And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe it. Rain tapped softly on the window, a familiar rhythm. She closed her eyes, sensing a change, an unstoppable shift. The next morning, David didn't come home. His text arrived out of town a few days later. "Don't wait up," bold, unfeeling words. Clara stared at them, her hands trembling, but she didn't reply. What was the point? Days bled into quiet evenings, the house feeling cavernous. Clara tried to fill the void. Laundry, gardening, baking, uneaten treats. But the empty bed and the silent phone were constant reminders of her solitude. Leo, ever watchful, began to fill the spaces David had abandoned. He cooked, fixed the leaky faucet, and joined her on morning walks. One evening, under a sky painted in orange and pink, Clara spoke softly. "You don't have to do all this, Leo. You should be out with your friends." He smiled. "I like being here. We used to laugh a lot. I miss that." Her heart ached for that easy warmth, that simple companionship. They talked for hours, his classes, her forgotten hobbies, his childhood misadventures. For a brief time, the world felt normal. Later in the kitchen, Leo leaned against the counter as Clara washed dishes. "You're quiet tonight," he observed. She offered a small smile. "Just tired," she hesitated. "You shouldn't have to do this alone, Mom. You've done enough. He doesn't even see it." His voice held anger, and beneath it, pain. She turned to him. "Lo, don't be angry. It's not your fault. People change." He looked at her, his eyes deep with emotion. "You didn't. You're still kind, still trying, and he doesn't deserve that." Her throat tightened. She placed a hand gently on his arm. "Thank you. That means more than you think." Their eyes met, a shared loneliness momentarily binding them. She quickly withdrew her hand. "It's late. Get some sleep." After he left, she stared at her reflection in the window. "What are we becoming?" she whispered, not fearing impropriety but the dangerous intimacy born of shared emptiness. The next morning she cleaned, reorganizing the pantry, polishing furniture, and even opening the old piano. Leo joined her, sitting beside her as she pressed a few rusty keys. "You used to play this all the time," she murmured. He smiled. "You used to sing along." Dad would laugh when we hit the wrong notes. Her laughter died quickly. The memory stung. Days passed, David's absence hardening into permanence. His calls were rare, his tone short, distracted. "I'll be home soon," he'd say, but soon never arrived. Leo's anger simmered beneath the surface, manifesting in subtle ways. He spoke less of his father, more of their past life. He helped with groceries, fixed her car, and even painted the porch she'd wanted redone for years. One evening, while painting, Clara slipped. Leo caught her, his hand steadying her shoulders. For a moment they froze, breathless. She looked away. "I'm okay," she whispered. He stepped back. "Sorry, I didn't mean—" "I know," she interrupted softly. "Thank you." The moment passed, but something shifted within them. A fragile closeness too powerful to name, too dangerous to ignore. That night, Clara couldn't eat. Leo found her at the dinner table and placed a bowl of soup before her. "Eat something," he said. She smiled weakly. "You're too good to me." He sat opposite her. "Someone has to be." They ate in silence, the rain tapping against the window. When they finished, Leo gathered the dishes. Clara moved to help, but he stopped her gently. "I've got it. You rest." Exhaustion won. She sat on the couch watching the rain. The lamp's glow cast soft light. It felt almost peaceful. Then her phone buzzed. David's name. She hesitated, her heart pounding, and answered softly. Laughter and a woman's voice drifted from the other end. Then David spoke. "Just checking in. I'll be back in a few days." Her voice cracked. "Where are you?" "Oh, don't worry about it," he said, hanging up before she could reply. Clara sat frozen, the laughter echoing in her mind, proof of what her heart already knew. Leo entered, concern etched on his face. "Mom, what happened?" She tried to smile, her lips trembling. "Nothing," she called. Leo's eyes darkened. "He's with someone, is he?" "Leo," she began, but he cut her off gently. "You don't deserve this, Mom. Not from him." Tears welled. She shook her head. "Let's not talk about it, please." He nodded, but his pained expression spoke volumes. That night, Clara sat by the window again, the storm outside mirroring the one within her. Everything she thought she could hold together was crumbling. Yet, Leo remained close, a steady light she hadn't expected. But she knew that light could burn them both if they weren't careful. As the rain intensified, her phone buzzed again, a message that chilled her blood. David Thorne checked into the Maple Inn with guest, Evelyn Carter. The hotel notification was a brutal confirmation, a receipt from their shared credit card. Air stared, tears blurring the words. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It was proof. Her hand shook as she placed the phone down. For years, she had dismissed the warning signs. But now David's betrayal was undeniable. Leo walked in, his face tired but calm. "Mom, are you okay? You look pale." She tried to speak, her voice a brittle whisper. "He's at a hotel," she managed, "with someone." Leo froze, then his jaw clenched. "Who is she?" "Evelyn Carter," she replied quietly. "I don't know her." Leo turned to the window, his voice trembling. "He doesn't deserve you, Mom, not after this." A wave of sadness washed over Clara, not just for David's deceit, but for the way Leo was forced to bear her pain. "Leo, don't. Please. I don't want you to hate him. It will only hurt you." He turned back, his eyes shining. "How can I not? He broke you, and you still defend him." She offered no answer, simply looked at the man her son had become, a mix of anger and heartbreak. She reached out, touching his arm. "I'll be fine," she said softly. "We just need time." But time didn't mend betrayal. It only amplified the silence. The next morning, David returned, his demeanor tired, almost annoyed. "Morning," he muttered, tossing his keys on the counter. Clara swallowed hard. "Where were you?" "Business trip," he said flatly. She stared at him, her voice barely a whisper. "At the Maple Inn." His eyes flickered, a momentary hesitation that confirmed everything. "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" "Don't lie, David," she said, her voice trembling. "I saw the charge," he sighed, rubbing his forehead. "You're overreacting. It was just dinner with a client." Clara laughed bitterly. A client named Evelyn Carter. The ensuing silence was deafening. Leo, who had been in the doorway, stepped forward. "Stop lying, Dad." David turned sharply. "Stay out of this." "No," Leo said firmly. "Not this time. I'm not watching you tear her apart anymore." Clara's heart pounded. She didn't want this fight. "Leo, please," she whispered. But the tension was already a suffocating cloud. David pointed at his son. "You don't talk to me like that." "I'm still your father." Leo met his gaze coldly. "Then act like one." It was a stalemate. David's jaw twitched. He grabbed his jacket and walked out without another word, the door slamming like a final farewell. Clara sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "What have we become?" she whispered. Leo sat beside her, silent. Then, quietly, he said, "Maybe this is what it takes to start over." She looked up at him, eyes red but soft. "Start over with what, Leo?" "Everything's broken." He shook his head. "Not everything." The way he said it, filled with deep, painful care, the kind that binds two people sharing the same wound, made her heart ache. She simply nodded. That evening, David returned, his tone sharp, his patience gone. "We need to talk," he said. Clara followed him to the living room. "There's nothing left to talk about," she said calmly. "Yes, there is," he snapped. "You're letting him fill your head with nonsense. You think he knows everything? He's just a kid." Her voice rose for the first time in years. "He's not a kid. He's the only one who's been here for me." David froze. The truth struck him. Leo entered, having heard her last words. "Don't yell at her," he said firmly. David turned, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, now you're her hero." The air grew heavy. Clara stepped between them. "Enough," she said sharply. "This ends now." David glared. "You want it to end? Fine." He grabbed his keys. "You'll regret it." She stood as he stormed out, not chasing him this time. The fading engine sound felt like freedom. That night, Leo found her alone in the living room, her hands clasped tightly. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She looked up, forcing a small smile. "I will be. Just give me time." He sat beside her, close enough that she felt the warmth of his shoulder. "You don't have to face this alone." "I know," she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. She tried to speak, but the words dissolved into sobs. Without thinking, Leo reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. For a few seconds, the world dissolved into two hearts holding each other up. When she realized their closeness, she pulled back, wiping her tears. "Lo, this isn't fair to you." He shook his head. "You've given me everything, Mom. I just want you to be happy." Her heart twisted. Happiness doesn't come from breaking lines, Leo. It comes from healing. He nodded slowly. Then let's heal together. His words were sincere, not romantic, just pure love, the kind that binds family even through heartbreak. Yet Clara felt the weight of something dangerous lingering. The following days were quiet. David didn't call. Clara filed for a temporary separation. Leo supported her through every meeting, every signature, every tear. They began rebuilding the house, not with paint or furniture, but with small acts of care. He made her breakfast. She helped him prepare for job interviews. They laughed again, though sometimes it sounded forced. One afternoon she found Leo fixing a loose kitchen shelf. "You don't have to do all this," she said with a faint smile. He looked up. "I want to. It feels right helping you." Something in his voice made her heart ache. Not romantically, but profoundly human. Two people hurt by the same man trying to rebuild a semblance of peace. That night they had dinner, the atmosphere lighter than it had been in weeks. They laughed over burnt cookies, and for a moment it felt like old times. But later, in the quiet living room, the weight of everything returned. Clara looked at him, tears glistening. "I don't want you to carry my pain, Leo. You deserve to live your life, not fix mine." He shook his head. "You're my mom. You don't have to be strong all the time." She smiled sadly. "That's the thing about mothers. We forget how to stop." The words hung between them, heavy and true. Over the next few weeks, David's absence became permanent. The house felt lighter without his shadow. Clara started walking again, sometimes alone, sometimes with Leo. The city felt different, cleaner, softer, as if the world had finally exhaled. Then one morning an envelope arrived. No return address, just one line in David's handwriting. "Forgive me if you can." Clara read it once, then folded it and placed it in a drawer. Forgiveness wasn't easy, not immediate, but someday she thought it could come. Not for him, but for her own peace. That evening she made tea. They sat by the window, watching the sky turn orange. For the first time in a long time, there was no tension, no sadness, just quiet comfort. Leo looked at her and smiled. "You seem lighter." "I am," she said softly. "For years I was waiting for someone to save me. I didn't realize I could save myself." He nodded, pride in his eyes. "I'm glad you see it now." She reached over, touching his hand lightly. "Thank you, Leo, for everything." He smiled. "Always." The world outside was calm. The storm had passed, or so she thought. That night, as Clara locked the front door and turned off the lights, her phone buzzed. A new message. The sender's name made her heart drop. "David, I need to see you one last time. It's important." Her fingers hovered over the screen. A chill ran through her. After everything, why now? What could he possibly want? Leo walked in, noticing her pale face. "Mom, what's wrong?" She looked up slowly, the phone still glowing. "It's your father," she whispered. Leo frowned. "What did he say?" She hesitated. "He wants to meet tomorrow, but for a moment